Hello Internet and welcome to this day in history for the 1st of November. Today we go back quite a bit in fact. We go back to 1179. And what then happened in 1179? Well, the 1st of November 1179 was really the birthday of the nation of France as we know it. Now of course that can be said to be debatable, because what is today France have been a united country of some sort ever since the days of the descendants of Charlemagne, of course, especially as the split between Eastern and Western Francia took place. But today in 1179, Philip II was crowned King of France. This is important because this was actually the first time anyone was crowned as the King of France rather than King of the Franks. Both this, of course, meant that he sort of agreed that the split between France and its old Eastern Carolingian parts of the realm, such as Germany and Central Europe, was lost to the crown as part of its hereditary lands. But it also created a concept of a national gathering that was France. Not just the people, but the actual physical landmass that it inhabited, which was, to a certain degree, one of the first time in history that has been done, and was, in many ways, the rebirth of that kind of way of looking at the world after the fall of the Roman Empire, or at least the fall of the Western Roman Empire. So yeah, Philip II of France, the first king of France and the birthday of France. Now, this, of course, could have been somewhat irrelevant if Philip had not been a good king. However, Philip II, Augustus as he was called by some of his historians, amusingly enough, actually only after he was dead, so not even just to curry favor with him, was also one of the most effective and successful kings to ever rule France. Honestly, beyond Louis XIV, he might have been the single most successful ruler of France since, or at least the French territories, since Charlemagne 400 years earlier. Louis both managed to defeat all of his foreign enemies, destroy the immensely powerful Angevin Empire that had held both Crown of England and almost half of the territory of the physical areas of what is today France, defeat the Germans from their excursions, make sure that his vassals got on the throne of some of the more powerful fiefs in the area, such as Champagne and Burgundy and so on. In fact, it was his defeat of the English under King John that eventually directly led to the British barons seeking to limit the powers of the king and force John to sign the Magna Carta. He also managed to reform the government in a more structured way, so to enhance royal power and enhance central power, meaning that the king would no longer be as dependent upon his barons and other great noblemen. And just as importantly, he was incredibly relevant for Paris. It's almost impossible to truly imagine any kind of realm or successful realm that doesn't have at least some kind of centralized site of power. In this case, of course, the capital. And in Paris, he was the great builder. He had the main thoroughfares paved, so for the first time in, well, at least almost 1,000 years, Paris was actually a city where you didn't constantly tread in mud no matter where you were. He built the Les Halles, the central market that continued for centuries and centuries to be the center of Parisian trade life. He continued the construction of the Notre Dame, and he also constructed Louvre, the Great Louvre, as a fortress, where the kings, of course, had their seat for many hundreds of years after that, as well as gave a charter to start a university. Basically, he turned Paris from a rather provincial little town where the king happened to dwell from time to time into the great central city of the continent, as it would become in the centuries to follow. So yes, this day in history for the 1st of November, 1179, the birthday of France, with the creation of the King of France, Louis II, one of the greatest medieval kings to have ever ruled, and in fact one of the 3 greatest French kings I can possibly put my finger on. So, I hope this has been of interest to you. Until next time, I have been the Sage, and I wish you all a very happy day.